I have to be honest with everybody for just a moment here. Being in the media industry is tough. I've been doing this for 17 years. I've been a producer, I've been a host, I've been everything else in between, a booker, a researcher, everything. And sometimes, you know what? Everybody makes mistakes. You know, you rely on a source that's a little less than accurate. You got to issue a retraction, a correction, whatever it is. We've all been there. But I am proud to say that in 17 years of doing this, I have never once ended up citing a satirical news source as if it were fact. And this week, Tucker Carlson did exactly that. Tucker got fooled by a conservative satirical website called the Babylon Bee. And he proceeded to read one of their articles on the air as if it were fact. Take a look at Tucker Carlson being completely duped by the Babylon Bee. Here it is.
So humor, above all, requires the truth. So, of course, most real comedy has been banned for the last year. It's one of the many casualties of totalitarian liberalism. One of the few places you can still find humor is a website called the Babylon Bee. And here was their contribution yesterday. Quote, "Woman escapes the patriarchy to find freedom in grueling 80-hour work week." Local business analyst Abby Stoughton, the piece begins, has finally escaped the shackles of the patriarchy to find freedom and worth in an 80-hour work week, working for an overbearing boss. "This is true happiness," said Stoughton as she sat through her fourth meeting of the day discussing first quarter sales figures for Melcorp Corporation. "My feminist ancestors fought so I could answer to 12 different middle managers in a thankless job before going home to an empty apartment and drinking wine. I have reached the pinnacle of womanhood." Yes, the piece explains Stoughton's job is awful and pointless, and sometimes she is sexually harassed, but, quote, "At least she doesn't have to live a boring life of housemaking with a husband and kids. I don't want all that domestic suburban bliss because that's not feminist," she said aloud as she daydreamed about being barefoot in the kitchen with a rich lumberjack husband. "Now, if you excuse me, I have to redo the cover sheets on these TPS reports before my boss threatens to fire me again." End quote. Now, it's funny because it's completely real. The most important thing young women can do with their lives, says Sheryl Sandberg and so many other CEOs, is work for a soulless public company maximizing shareholder value. "Give us everything," they promise, "and you'll be free."
What's really funny about this, aside from him obviously reading something that was very clearly satire, is what's the point he was trying to make to begin with, right? What even was this supposed to be? Are you supposed to be saying that women don't belong in the workplace, or women should be working more in the workplace, or that women are feeble creatures? Like, whatever point it is you were trying to make by this was probably even worse than you reading this satirical article from the very unfunny Babylon Bee. Furthermore, you have producers. Okay? And I know because I've been in that situation. These are people who should be very plugged in. They should be all over social media. They should be scouring everywhere for stories. And more importantly, double and triple checking their sources. They should also know which websites are satire and which are not. And the Babylon Bee is fairly well known. Everybody knows, at least as far as I've seen on social media, that the Babylon Bee is fiction, that it's satire, that it's basically the conservatives' poor man's version of The Onion. Everybody knows that. I have to assume that some producer knew this was fake, but they fed it to him anyway. Like, I just refuse to believe, being in this industry and knowing so many producers, including some at Fox, there is no way in hell this is just, oops, we didn't know. No. Somebody had to have known. Somebody along that chain, whether it's the graphics guys putting together these things, the producer slipping it into the somebody along the way recognized this as satire and still said, let's do it anyway. Whether it was because they disliked Tucker Carlson or because they genuinely thought, hey, our viewers are stupid, they'll never know the difference. We may never know that. But I promise you, while Tucker was doing this on the air, there was laughter behind the scenes because they knew exactly what they had given him.